This week in Idle Heroes, we have got ourselves a brand new update to the Soul Temple, which allows us to improve the power of our awakened heroes, assuming they have an awakened tier of B+ or higher. What you can do is go into what's called now the Soul Perfection menu and select one of your heroes. Let's click on my Halora, for example, and you'll see that there is this entire menu that shows up. It allows you to put 5-star heroes in the bottom, shows you your stats, and explains that there are a certain number of upgrades you need to do to reach a point called Soul Perfection. Now, each of those upgrades requires a certain number of points that you can see at the top, and that number for me on this Halora copy is 310, and you get points by putting in copies of heroes. A hero copy that is just perfectly normal and basic gets the following points. If it's a B-, it gets you 10. If it's a B, it gets you 28. If it's a B+, it's 68. And it goes up and up and up, depending on the copy, until we hit insane numbers for S tiers. Now, immediately, you should look at this and go, wow, it seems really bad to just put a B- in, because I need 31 B- just to upgrade one level, and I have to do that 5 times? That's insane. Yes. It absolutely is. However, certain heroes give improved bonuses, which are significantly higher. So if you look at a B+ hero, if it's just normal, it gives 68. But if it's got a merging bonus, it gets you 272. And that merging bonus is granted when you are equal to or higher than the tier of the hero in question. So this Halora is B+, so I could put a B+ Vesa in here who is of a same tier, because they're both B+. Therefore, I gain the merging bonus, and that takes me all the way up to 340. So my first piece of advice is, if you are going to do this at all, ensure that you're giving heroes of a level equal to or higher than the level you already have. But is that even worth it? Well, if a hero has 5 more full progressors, I don't think it's worth it at all. I think you should just never upgrade that hero copy at all. However, go ahead and take a look at my Olivia copy. She is B-, but she is right on the edge. And that means 2 more full progress upgrades are needed to take her higher. Now, that means I only need 50 points. Fortunately, if I put in a hero that is B- with the bonus points, because it is 10 plus 40, that hits 50. And that's going to be enough to get me exactly what we need. So let's put this Saja copy in, just for an example. So that all merges up, there you go. And we have just received more power onto our Olivia copy. Her speed has increased, her HP has increased, and so has her attack. This is really, really nice. That is enough for me to take her to B tier. To do that, though, I need B- copies. I need 5 of them. Now, is that worth it? Well, let's consider for a second just how much a B- hero costs you in the auction house. Typically, the cheapest you can get a hero for is 2/3 of their retirement value. If you go look at the retirement value of a B- hero, you'll see that's 300. So 2/3 of that is 200. Which means I need to get 5 B- for 200 on the auction house to do this as cheap as possible. Which means I need to spend 1,000 starry gems on B- just to improve my Olivia. If you have 1,000 starry gems, I promise you, you are able to just go into the auction house and buy a better Olivia copy than this one. So my advice to you immediately is taking a hero from B- to B is just not worth it. So what about the other tiers? Let's go see if they're any good. Well, I do actually have a B Elena somewhere. Let me get her in, and she is 1 upgrade tier away, which is a little annoying because that's exactly what a B would give us. But then when you go and get the merging bonus thrown in, it actually gives me way more points than I can deal with. Which is, it's good, but it's annoying. So, okay, let's say I wanted to do that just with B-. Well, unfortunately, I would need 3 B- to get her higher. And then if, by any chance, I did choose to upgrade her, it would take us to a menu, just like the one we had with Olivia. But instead of Olivia, who says it needs 5 B-, for Elena to go from B to B+, or any hero to go from B to B+, they require 5 B-, just like this, but then 10 B heroes. For us to take that same value, it's 1,000 starry gems worth of B-, but then how much does a B tier cost? Well, 600. So let's buy that for 2/3 off the auction house if we get it for a good price. That's 400, and I need 10 of them. That's 4,000 starry gems. So add that to the 1,000 we've already spent on B minuses. That's 5,000 starry gems to get Elena to B plus? No! I will just buy a much better B plus Elena from the auction house 3 times for that price. Just look, go to the auction market, filter by B plus. We'll select Elena. Look at all these ones I can buy. And they are all significantly cheaper than 5,000 starry gems. In fact, I could get this really, really strong one with damage reduction already, and that's 3,000, and I don't even think that's worth it. So no, it's not worth it to go from B to B+. Which then leads us on to the most important question of all. What do you need to go from B+ to A-? Because A- is huge. It unlocks you Divine Block, Giant Killer, Defier, some incredibly powerful stats. And it gets you 3 bonus stats instead of 2, which means the jump from B+ to A- is that much more significant. So that's quite exciting. But if you go and check out the retirement values anyway, you'll see there's already an insane jump between B+ and A-. It's clearly depicted in the hero value. So what do you need to go from B+ to A-? Well, you'd think if DH Games were smart, they'd do what they've done with the other hero factions. It's just a bunch of B+, because that's equivalent value, right? The Bs needed 10 Bs. So perhaps the B+ need 5 B+, 10 Bs, and then 5 B-. I think that would be pretty interesting. In fact, that would be extraordinarily cheap. No, the devs have decided you need 5 Bs, 5 B+, and 5 A-. So let's talk about the ideal scenario for a second, where we were actually able to buy all of that material for 2/3 of its retirement price. So for the Bs, we would need to buy 5 for 400, that's 2,000. For the B+, we would need to buy 5 for 1,200. That's 6,000. So already we've spent 8,000. But for 5 A-, if you're really, really, really lucky, only sometimes can you go ahead and buy them for the very cheap price of 6,000. And it's extraordinarily rare. If you go and look, there's none selling for that price here. And Olivia did sell for 6,000, as you can see there. There was an on Kiramaru that sold for 6,099. Sometimes it happens, but generally speaking, it won't. But let's be hypothetical. Let's say we do get 5 A- copies. All for 6,000. That's 30,000 starry gems you would need to spend. So add that to the 8,000 for the B+ and the Bs. That is 38,000 starry gems in value to take a hero that is right on the edge of B+ up to A-. So is that ever worth it? Well, most of the time, no. If I go to the auction house and we take a little look and we search the auction market for good A-, let's put in the main heroes people like Lord of Fear Aspen, Markman, Geista, right? Even Vulcan will throw in there for good measure. And take a look around. These guys are selling for significantly cheaper than 38,000. The only world where 38,000 starry gems investment makes any sense right now on the auction market is, I think, in one case, where if you wanted an Ailemak and money meant nothing to you. Because there are no A- Ailemaks. In fact, there isn't a single Giant Killer Ailemak anywhere to be seen on the auction house. So where there is scarcity, I can totally understand why someone would do this. They'd go and find themselves a really powerful B+ copy and bring that up. Something that's right on the edge of being upgraded. And the way you can work out if something's on the edge of being upgraded is add its stats together, stick 2 zeros at the end of the speed, and then divide that by 3. So if your stats total something around 5,300, you could theoretically go ahead and take yourself up to A- by bumping those stats with one simple upgrade with another B+. So if you can get a hero whose total comes to that, then great. They're right ready to be upgraded. But also, it might be quite hard to find an Ailemak who's that close. But let's suppose you do. Then I guess you could go ahead and spend 38,000 starry gems and get your own Giant Killer Ailemak because there are none on the auction house. And therefore, given the fact there are none, and if you really wanted one, I can see why someone would do that. But then It makes no sense. Alamax sell for like 20,000 starry gems. There is no reason to do this. And if you look at the auction house before Christmas last year, then yeah, that price makes total sense. Because even a Vesa back then was selling for 65,000 starry gems. That would make this update look amazing. But that's using modern prices to buy all the materials. Modern pricing with modern A minuses means that this update is functionally not worth it. 38,000 starry gems really is way too much to invest. And I think the only world where it could be possible, outside of the Alamac example I gave, is whenever any new Transcendence hero comes out, and they do seem really good, and you want to have a Giant Killer copy on day one. If that's something you want, then I suppose I can understand that investment opportunity if you do that. The other thing to bear in mind is you also need that B+ on the edge, so it might not even be possible to do that unless you can get a really good B+ version of a newer hero. But even then, we can't guarantee it will be a good Giant Killer, and you cannot guarantee it's going to hold its value. So this update is entirely for people who just care about improving the stats of their heroes and don't care about their money. Another point where you might actually want to engage with this update, and I think this is going to be way more common, is when speed between your heroes is super duper close. Take, for example, my Asmodel the Dauntless. He has 2240 speed when I remove his boots. For me to get my Halora when she's not in a house to even be able to be close to his speed, look how close that is, 2242. She is 2 speed above him. I had to get myself a B+ Halora with at least 50 speed. Like, let's say this Halora was an incredible copy with like 5400 attack, 5600 HP, but then only had 49 in speed. And I needed to get to 51 speed so I could be 1 speed above that Asmodel. Then this new update suddenly becomes really valuable because that tiny increase is the difference in speed I might need. And therefore, I don't care about the Awakening tier. All I care about is the stats. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need a little bit more speed, that is your trick. Because instead of having to go buy a completely different copy off the auction house, you can instead upgrade the hero and get the stats that way. Now, there has been one suggestion from the community, which I think is really, really cool, and I think this came from Rake, but it could have come from other content creators and other people in the community as well. But there was a suggestion that the only way DH Games can actually monetize this as an update in a way that we as players will engage with is if they take puppets, like simple 5-star puppets, and then give them Awakening tiers. Because if you make a puppet, and specifically say it can't be sold on the auction house, then it doesn't matter how much you sell that for, because no one can destroy them or sell them on the auction house. So if you just have these A- puppets that can only be used in this update, then perhaps that might be good. But there's also one downside if the devs do that. Because they would have to be priced around $50 each, or part of a reward that would be about $50, which would mean they'd be competing with artifacts in their position when it comes to rewards. And already, artifacts are hotly contested by Sublimation and also Core of Origin chests. So if they added something new that would be in that same value point, then that actually makes things more problematic for us players, because either we have to choose between chests that give different things, or even worse, they will change our opportunity to pick up those rewards and give us A- puppets instead. Bearing in mind, you need 5 A- puppets before they can even be useful. And given the fact we just got the Destiny Transition update, which, if you haven't seen, makes your heroes look pretty and gives them rainbows on them, well, that already has its own unique currency that is going to have to compete with all the other stuff that we want. Whether it's these Spirit Vein shards, or it's the fancy Aurora crystals that we need to go pick up. Either way, they're 2 brand new resources that they have to add to the game's reward system that already is going to help clog up the fact that we're also after Core of Origin shards, Sublimation, and all the other stuff like that. If they then add puppets that are also A- or B+ or whatever, that's just going to complicate things even more and dilute the reward system, meaning we might not actually get the stuff we want and end up with more disappointing events. Because time and time again now, we're seeing people, especially free-to-play players, complain that, well, I didn't want half a Core of Origin chest. I wanted sublimation. The only solution is if they always just let us choose between those things and just pick whatever works for you at the time. I suppose that's one nice solution, but then it just becomes a pick-your-own reward system, and I don't think the devs have ever been inclined to do something like that. Either way, let me know what you think in the comment section. I like this update in theory. I think there are points where it can be good, and I think there might be an argument where 38,000 story gems in value could justify an A-, but those specific examples are very, very slim and unlikely, and really, I think it's going to take quite some time for either the auction house to magically increase in price again for this to be good, or for the devs to implement something else that makes this update a little more worth it. Hopefully you learned something today. Hopefully this update is a little more simple, and hopefully you now know it's probably not worth doing. Either way, I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good week, and happy idling.